Hello fellow Titan Quest fans! This is a build guide of the Storm Ride class, which is a combination of Forge and Storm Mastery. You use the blade traps to shred everything to pieces that stands in your way, be it mobs or bosses. Storm Mastery is here to cast some Call Lightning spells to give our traps some Elemental Infusion for a lot of extra damage. Let's take a look at the centerpiece of the build, Blade Trap of Forge Mastery. You can skill it as early as tier 1, but it is still very strong on higher levels. The Blade Trap deals pierce damage in an area. The trap has a limited number of activations and it activates at a certain speed. Putting a Blade Trap costs Divine Cause, aka metal. The number of traps that you can put down is set by your summon limit. Forge Mastery has a high number of passive skills that increase your summon's damage and overall performance. There are so many passive scalars in Forge Mastery to increase your blade trap's damage. Then there's also lots of bonuses on gear and charms and relics. All of these scale the build's damage really well. This build uses the blade trap and not the other summon of Forge Mastery, which is the sentry. The blade trap spins and deals damage in a big area. You can place it so that one trap shreds a whole group of mobs. The sentry gun can just fire one projectile at a time at one enemy. That is why I preferred the blade trap. This build heavily relies on the skills of Forge Mastery. Storm Mastery is just a support at best. I decided to make an Elemental Infusion build. This means that you can just cast a spell, be it fire, cold or lightning, then you got this orb circling around you. This orb indicates that your next spell that uses Elemental Infusion modifiers gets some elemental damage bonuses. For this build it works like this. Cast a Call Lightning on an enemy and then lay a blade trap. The trap deals its regular pierce damage but also a good chunk of lightning damage as well. One trap is enough to shred every monster to pieces. For leaders you might need 2 or 3. Bosses are so easy with this build. Just spam Call Lightning and Blade Trap all the time at the boss. Within a few seconds every boss goes down. Let's take a look at the pros and cons. For the pros, the build shreds everything and is fun to play, because the Elemental Infusion and the strategic placement of the traps make the gameplay intriguing. For the cons, there are also some. Leveling can be hard. The build is average at best until level 22. Boss fights can get really awkward if you run out of metal. There's also zero movement until you hit level 42. Then you have decent movement. With that out of the way, we can take a look at the skills. Our main skill, Blade Trap, is skilled like this. First skill, Summon Limit, so that you can put down some more traps at a time. You then want to increase the area, max that out later. To crank up the damage, put 1 point in Masterwork. This makes the trap more expensive but hit a lot harder, and 3 points in Elemental Infusion. 1/3 of the trap's damage is dealt by that infusion. You can see a normal trap on the left and a lightning infused trap on the right. Also put 1 point in Burnout. This one makes the trap really go fast. So I recommend you skill that at the later levels. Next up, we take a look at the other spell that we use all the time, Call Lightning. This skill's main function is to have us cast an Elemental Infusion on the next trap, so we use the spell every single time before we cast a trap. Since we don't focus on damage for the spell, we can go for utility. Lightning damage has an interesting ailment effect called Shocked, which has a chance to disrupt enemies. Max out Enhanced Ailment to have a good disruptive force against leaders and bosses who cast spells frequently. We also want to burn away their mana. For that we skill Energy Drain up to level 4. Our ailment chance works for the energy drain damage too, so the enemies get the effect weakened as well. At the point of this video, the devs have not decided what weakened actually does. I hope it does something cool in the future, like mana burn over time or something. I put 1 point in Thunderstorm, cause why not? Lightning strikes are fun and I cast Call Lightning frequently. The spell is sometimes used for damage when an enemy is on very low health and you just need to nudge it towards the grave. Call Lightning is the best spell for that, because you can nuke anything in your sight. Leaders and bosses actually have no mana when you fight them, because you burn it all away. The spells that they can cast without cost are often disrupted by the shocked effect, all the while the traps shred them to pieces. Chains is also a handy utility spell here. You can grab metal without having to collect it, but you can also grab some straggling monsters and pull them in your blade traps. Use cooldown charge and additional chains. The passive skill Salvager gives you a nice little damage bonus on your blade traps after you collected metal. Go for summon damage and double divine cores to have enemies drop double metal at a 15% chance. The passive that you actually want to max out as early as possible is Forged Legion. This scales your blade trap damage by 171%, which is a gigantic increase. You yourself deal 20% less damage, but who cares? This is a pure summons build anyway. The next passive that you want to max out is Expert Blueprints. This one increases the damage and activation speed. Once you reach tier 4 of Forge, max out Improved Devices immediately. That one gives your traps a good chance for double activations. The active aura also has the same purpose, max out device double activation. Now we got a 52% chance for our traps to double activate, which is huge. Later also skill Conservation in order to be able to have enough energy to cast Call Lightning all the time. Also, don't miss out on the passive Curio Collector on tier 2. This one has a good feat called Divine Core Collector. This one is important when you run out of metal. Just wait a few seconds and you can put the next trap. Also skill Maximum Divine Cores. Don't forget about the summon damage scaler of Storm Mastery called Storm Invoker. Skill Summon damage and speed. One of the last passives to skill is Elemental Utilization. Skill Elemental Damage and Elemental Infusion. A good way to spend some active points is the aura Storm Nimbus. You primarily skill that for Frost Armor. The range at which you can cast traps is very limited, so you have to get close to the monsters all the time. Frost Armor often freezes enemies that attack you, which is very beneficial to this Summoner Caster build. Also got 3 points in Storm Enhancement, 1 point in Thunderstorm and 3 points in Conservation. The dodge also needs some points. I skilled 3 modifier points in Distance and also Cooldown Charge. Since we level up Forge Mastery first, we don't have any movement spells at our disposal. When you reach a higher level, you can use the movement spells of Storm, which are very good. Blink with 2 repeats can go a long way when crossing the map. Cyclone is also a good movement spell. Use Enhanced Duration and Enhanced Ailments. Instead of Cyclone, you could also skill Force Field with Fragile to increase your damage. This skill is especially good on boss fights. I figured that I deal enough damage anyway, and that more movement speed is more important than killing a boss 1 second faster. A passive that you skill relatively early on is Storm's Arcane Influx. Just up to level 4 to have some decent energy regeneration. The rest of the passives I put in Lightning Evoker, because this build uses active abilities constantly, so it's always good to have some random lightning strikes happen. Up until the build is level 42, you are slower than a snail. To counter that, you really need to have the swap weapon Hippocampus Scapula. This weapon gives you a good movement speed increase of up to 14%. Always switch to that whenever there are no monsters around in order to run faster. It's also cool to switch to the Scapula and then activate Tempest to run super fast. Let's talk about the attribute point distribution. I decided to go for Knowledge, because I like the weapons that require Resolve. Those often give huge bonuses for summons damage. You often see bonuses of up to 75%. Only use attribute points to have enough knowledge and resolve. 270 points in knowledge is more than enough. Put the rest into vigor for extra health. You need it because you get very close to the monsters. Since you need to get close, you get hit often. To counter that, use some good health regeneration items. For torso armor, go for health regen, resistances and vigor. If you have a completed Hypnos charm lying around, you can slap that on your torso armor to increase your energy regeneration even further. You want to look for the Summoner's prefix. That one gives a big damage increase to your summons. The prefix can roll on weapons, arm armor and rings. There's also bonuses that increase your summon's health and resistances, but that is really unnecessary. The traps get only damaged by AoE spells of monsters, such as the spiders exploding or the brute's AoE slam attack. You can always cast another trap, so it doesn't matter at all if one gets destroyed. There's a lot of support for summoner builds, with the item bonuses and lots of charms and relics. You need a good two-handed weapon, ideally one with a 75% increase to your summon's damage. Mine here has 69%, which is alright, and some ailment chance. The best relic that you can get is the Courage of Theseus. That one gives you a permanent damage increase to your summons and also a temporary boost when an enemy dies. My one ring has a 45% increased summon damage. You really need to farm for the charm Vile Ichor. This one goes on rings and it gives a whopping 50% more summons damage. I am still looking for another good second ring. The one I have is just okay at best. For the amulet, go for Summons All Speed, which goes up to 10%. Farm for a relic called Raging Tempest. Those Keto pigs and the Hippocampus foal drop that. For the arm armor, I got lucky and got a double summons bonus on damage and speed. The shoulders need crit chance and some random summon stats. The build likes cast speed, so I recommend that you get a helmet with cast speed and energy regeneration. I also put some necrotic bones on some armor parts in order to increase my energy pool. You can do that for any build that you play that needs some extra energy. Necrotic bones is very easy to farm off of skeletons. The boots have, you know me, both movement speed and movement skill cooldown. Energy potions have ailment, of course, and for health go for the highest regen value and some random bonus. There's also two other charms that you need sooner or later. Glacial Shard goes on your leg armor and also gives a 30% summon damage increase. Primal Magma does the same, and this one goes on your arms and shoulders, so ideally you get two of those. Those are not easy to farm though. There's also the Craftsman prefix on items. This gives your summons increased activations. I deliberately did not go for those. Instead I focused on summons damage. You can also focus on activation bonuses on gear and skill the summons modifier Strong Start. This works quite well too. Let's talk about how to play the build. You zap an enemy, preferably one with energy, then cast a trap. Notice that the distance of you and the trap cast is very limited. It is often best to stand right in the enemy's face, cast a trap where they will run. This shreds them all with just one trap. If there is a straggler, aka a monster that is too far away from the trap, you can always pull that guy into the trap with the chains. I figured that the build's magic number for traps is 3. For mobs you need 1 or 2, for leaders 2 traps are enough. Just for bosses you cast more than 2 traps. Since we got a high activation speed with our burnout modifier, the traps that you set up are spent very fast. For a boss, that means that you spam Core Lightning and Blade Trap consecutively. You have 3 traps running permanently all the time, because by the time you cast your 3rd trap, the first already ran out of activations. You see here how bosses are shredded. They can't do anything. There's 3 traps all the time, with half of them having double activations. The traps have a high activation speed and often crit, from 22k to 35k damage, which is huge. The build is more on the fast damage dealing side. You shred monster camps one after another and jump from one mob to the next. This playstyle is encouraged by the passive skill Salvager, that increases your damage for a brief period after you collected metal. There's also the Courage of Theseus relic on your weapon that boosts the trap's damage and speed for a short while after enemies are killed. The community of Starting Quest 2 and myself longed for some mastery that has summons. Not in the sense that we got here now with stationary traps, but with golems, wolves, elemental summons and so on that run around, attack monsters and tank damage. It seems that the developers didn't want to go that route yet. Why would you tank damage if even casters can get right in the monster's face and get hit constantly? Your stationary summons can shred mobs and bosses really fast. So there's no need for a pet that is running around. Starting Quest 1 had many of those, and you could make a build that had a whole pet zoo running around with you. It seems that the devs of Grimlaw games didn't want to go that route, which is fine. In any case, I can recommend that build. It doesn't get boring because you need to place the blade traps strategically and always watch your Elemental Infusion. The kill speed against mobs is very high and for bosses it's very decent. Overall, a really fun and strong build. And now it's your turn. Will you make a summoner build with blade traps or sentries? Which secondary mastery will you pick? Let me know in the comments. Thank you guys for watching and I'll see you in the next one.